Did you know your first sport fishing boat doesn't have to break the bank or your nerves? These 17 boats prove you can fish offshore safely, comfortably, and confidently without spending more than $1 million. Let's get right into it. Owning a Boston whaler is like buying a tank that floats, except this one comes with cup holders and a cabin. The 285 Conquest is the ultimate first sport fisher for anyone who doesn't want to start small. It's 27 feet 10 inches of unsinkable confidence, with Whaler's famous foam-filled hull that refuses to go down even if you try. For a first-time buyer, that's a comforting thought, especially when you're still learning to trust the waves. Power it with twin Mercury 250 or 300 Verados, and you'll cruise happily in the mid-30s and hit nearly 50 miles per hour when you feel brave. The layout is clever: a cozy cabin with a galley, convertible V-berth, and an enclosed head. You can fish offshore at dawn, then pull anchor and serve lunch inside an air-conditioned cabin. Of course, that safety and polish come at a price. A new 2025 285 Conquest starts around $350,000, while clean used examples hover between $180,000 to $240,000 depending on age and hours. Pricey, yes, but you're buying one of the safest, most trusted boats ever built. And when you eventually resell, you'll learn something rare in boating. Whalers don't depreciate, they just find new admirers. If the Boston Whaler is the Mercedes of Sportfishers, the Grady White Express 330 is the Bentley. It's overbuilt in the best way, solid, quiet, and reassuringly heavy when seas start to get messy. At 33 feet 6 inches long, it's not exactly a starter dinghy, but for first-time buyers with ambition and confidence, it's a dream platform to grow into. The 330's hull design, Grady's famous CV2, delivers a ride that feels almost unfair to lesser boats. It slices through chop with a soft landing, keeping the cockpit dry even when the weather turns dramatic. Inside, it's surprisingly plush. A comfortable cabin with a small galley, sleeping quarters, and a helm that feels like a high-end SUV dashboard, only saltier. Twin Yamaha 425s provide serious offshore range and speed, but they're smooth, predictable, and fuel-efficient for their size. New builds start around $640,000, while gently used ones land closer to $300,000 to $400,000. It's an investment, but also a statement. Grady White boats are built to outlive trends, and this one's a lifetime keeper. If you're a first-time buyer who wants a boat that says, "I plan to do this for the next 30 years, then this is your forever hull. Liking these first two? Hit subscribe and drop your dream boat in the comments. The next ones might just be even better. The Cobia 280cc is the kind of boat that instantly makes you look like you've been boating for years, even if this is your first time backing a trailer. At 28 feet, it's right in that magic zone where offshore capability meets easy handling. The layout is smart. A deep, dry hull for fishing trips, yet enough seating and shade to keep the family happy. With twin Yamaha 200s and 50s or 300s, it cruises effortlessly in the 30s and can hit about 55 miles per hour wide open, enough to feel sporty without crossing into chaos. The console design is clean and uncluttered, giving you confidence even if you've never helmed a boat this size before. The ride? Predictable, comfortable, and surprisingly forgiving when seas pick up. Pricing for the 2025 Cobia 280cc starts around $188,000 USD, and you can find used models between $130,000 to $160,000, depending on engine hours. It's not the cheapest first sport fisher, but it's one of the easiest to live with. Minimal maintenance headaches, great resale value, and tons of dealer support across the U.S. If the Boston Whaler is the safe bet and the Grady White is the dream, The Cobia 280cc is the perfect middle ground, affordable enough to start, capable enough to never outgrow. If the Boston Whaler and Grady White are luxury liners, the Sea Hunt Gamefish 27 is the working-class hero that still shows up dressed sharp. This boat was built for anglers who want something serious enough for offshore runs, but simple enough for weekend maintenance. At 27 feet 5 inches, it's the perfect starter Sportfisher for someone who wants capability without complexity. Sea Hunt nailed the layout: twin live wells, large fish boxes, and a console big enough for modern electronics. It's powered by twin Yamaha 200s or 250s, which are reliable as sunrise and easy to service at just about any marina in America. The deep V hull makes it surprisingly comfortable offshore, but the ride is still forgiving for newer captains learning to trim and throttle properly. The best part? Price. A new Gamefish 27 runs about $168,000 to $195,000 US, depending on engine choice and options. Used models are a steal, often in the $110,000 to $140,000 range. You get all the offshore essentials without the fancy tax. It's one of those boats that proves you don't need a six-figure dock slip to fish like a pro. If you're just starting out but already dreaming of chasing sailfish, the Gamefish 27 is your realistic ticket there and back safely. If Apple designed a fishing boat, it might look like the Scout 255 LXF. Everything is sleek, seamless, and weirdly beautiful. Even the rod holders look aerodynamic. At 25 feet 6 inches, it's compact enough for first-time owners to handle easily, yet classy enough to park next to million-dollar yachts without embarrassment. Scout builds every hull using vacuum-infused composite, which makes the boat strong, light, and fuel-efficient. Powered by a single or twin Yamaha 200S, the 255 LXF hits around 50 miles per hour, cruises comfortably at 30, and sips fuel compared to heavier fiberglass rigs. Inside, it's not just for fishing. There's plush seating, a head in the console, and finishes that feel more like a boutique SUV than a typical center console. Price-wise, new models start around $185,000 US, with used ones dipping to $120,000 to $150,000 depending on options. It's not cheap, but you're paying for style, refinement, and top-tier build quality. For new boaters who care as much about design as performance, the 255 LXF proves you can have a premium look without needing a crew or a trust fund. Here's the surprise underdog of the list, the Trophy T23CX. Once known for affordable fishing boats with basic layouts, Trophy reinvented itself with this model. It's still budget-friendly, but now it actually looks and performs like a serious Sportfisher. At 23 feet, it's one of the most approachable boats here, small enough to trailer, store in a garage, and launch solo if you're brave. The T23CX punches well above its price. With a single Mercury 250 or 300 Verado, it can cruise around 35 miles per hour and hit top speeds in the high 40s. It's got a live well, insulated fish boxes, and surprisingly comfortable seating, so you can fish hard and still bring your family along without mutiny. New, it starts around $92,000 to $110,000 US, which is incredible value for a modern fiberglass hull with a strong brand legacy. Used prices dip near $70,000, putting it well within reach for first-time buyers. If you want a boat that doesn't scare your bank account or your spouse, the Trophy T23CX might be your perfect launch pad into the sport fishing world, literally and financially. The Regulator. 26XO is what happens when a hardcore offshore brand decides to make something a little more forgiving. It's a hybrid bay boat, which basically means it can fish shallow waters on Saturday and handle offshore runs on Sunday, versatility at its best. At 26 feet 9 inches long, it's the perfect size for first-time buyers who don't want to be locked into one kind of fishing. The hull is pure regulator DNA, overbuilt, solid, and designed to take punishment. Power it with a single Yamaha 425 XTO, and you'll hit top speeds around 55 miles per hour. Yet despite that muscle, it's easy to control, even for new skippers who are still learning trim tabs and throttle finesse. The ride is soft, predictable, and most importantly, confidence-building. Price-wise, expect to pay around $220,000 to $240,000 USD new, or around $160,000 to $180,000 for gently used examples. You're buying the legendary regulator quality, but in a boat that's easier to trailer, maintain, and live with day to day. If you're the kind of first-time buyer who likes to explore from flats to 30 miles offshore, the 26XO gives you freedom without fear. It's the one boat does it all for people who actually fish. Enjoying the lineup so far? Hit like if you found your favorite and subscribe, because the next boats take first-time fishing to a whole new level. The Edgewater 262CX is like a Swiss Army knife made of fiberglass. It's strong, unsinkable, and ready for just about anything, from trolling offshore to cocktail cruises at sunset. At 26 feet 5 inches, it's compact enough for beginners, but packed with features that make it feel like a much bigger boat. Edgewater uses a single-piece, variable density foam construction that gives the hull incredible strength and buoyancy. You could literally fill it with water, and it would still float. Pair that with twin Yamaha 200s or 300s, and you've got smooth, predictable handling with a top speed around 50 miles per hour. The dual console layout means you can fish hard or bring friends along without the cockpit feeling cluttered. New prices hover around $220,000 to $250,000 US, depending on options, while used ones land in the $160,000 to $190,000 range. It's not the cheapest, but it's one of the safest investments on the water. Edgewaters are known for lasting decades. If your first boat wish list says fishing, fun, and zero stress, the 262CX checks all three. It's like having a bodyguard that also loves to fish. The Sailfish 276DC is proof that comfort and capability can actually coexist. While some boats make you choose between family cruising and serious fishing, this dual console beauty just shrugs and says, why not both? At 27 feet 6 inches, it's ideal for first-time owners who want offshore reliability, but also a spot for their kids or friends to lounge. Underneath the stylish exterior is a rugged, variable dead-rise hull that eats chop for breakfast. Power it with twin Yamaha 200s or 250s, and you'll cruise in the low 30s while staying surprisingly fuel efficient. The helm is intuitive, visibility is excellent, and the build quality, like all Sailfish models, is rock solid. Pricing starts around $195,000 to $210,000 US, with used ones floating in the $140,000 to $170,000 zone. Not bad for something that doubles as both a fishing rig and a mini yacht. For first-time buyers who want to keep the peace between serious angler and family dayboater, the 276DC might be the perfect compromise. It's basically a marriage counselor with twin engines. Imagine buying your first big boat and showing up to the marina in something that looks like you know what you're doing, even if you've only ever backed a dinghy before. That's exactly what the Parker 2520 XLD Sport Cabin brings to the table. At roughly 25 feet 4 inches, 7.72 meters in length, it's compact enough to trailer and handle with some newfound confidence, yet roomy enough inside to bring friends, gear, and maybe even a bit of swagger. Inside, you'll find a fully enclosed cabin. No more fishing in wind-driven soup or telling your crew to just sit still while I troll. The deck layout blends serious fishing space with practical comfort. Good rod storage, smart tackle arrangements, and helm visibility that's surprisingly friendly for a first-time skipper. The hull is built for reliability rather than theatrics. You're still learning the throttle after all. Price-wise, new inventory is listed around $204,000 USD MSRP for a base unit. Used examples offer more accessible entry points. Listings show used models in the $130,000 to $170,000 USD range, depending on year, hours, condition. If you want your first boat to feel like a serious vessel without jumping straight into mega yacht territory, this model hits that sweet spot. Capable, manageable, and impressively grown up. For the first-time buyer who can't decide between serious fishing rig and family weekend boat, the Albemarle 27 dual console is like getting both in one package. At about 27 feet in length, it offers real offshore capability. But the dual console layout means you can swap from rod in hand to weekend cruiser without changing boats. Utility and comfort live side by side here. The fishing end features are legit: large deck, good live well/storage capacity, and a hull tuned for offshore stability. On the leisure side, there's seating for guests, shade options, and enough style so you don't feel like you're in a bare-bones workboat. For a first-timer who expects the boat to do all the things, this one checks the boxes. The trade-off? It's a bit more demanding than a pure small center console. Slightly higher maintenance, more dockage/engine costs, maybe a steeper learning curve for managing longer runs. But if you're confident you'll stick with boating and want a platform to grow on, the Albemarle 27DC is a strong buy-once option. Current listings show a 2022 example at around $279,900 US, with other 2023/24 models listed from $260,000 upwards. Here's a model that pulls serious performance and pedigree into the first-time buyer zone. Meet the Blackfin 272cc. With high marks for hull durability, finish quality, and offshore capability, this boat gives you some of the best parts of serious Sportfisher without immediately escalating into megaboat territory. You're getting a design built to take on adverse conditions without drama. The ride is solid, the helm serious, the feel of ownership commanding. If you're a first-timer with aspirations, I want to fish big water, or I might take this boat serious, then the Blackfin 272cc is a platform that grows with you. Because of its credibility and performance, it does cost a bit more, and that means you'll need to be ready for more in terms of running costs, maintenance, and maybe skipper confidence. But if you've done your homework, have a budget for upkeep, and want a boat that won't feel small in a year or two, this one's worth the look. Recent market listings show 2024/25 models from $243,000 USD and upwards to $300,000 plus USD. If this is your first boat, the Bertram 28cc might make people think you've been boating for decades. Bertram is a legendary name in offshore fishing, and this 28-footer carries that reputation with pride. It's the kind of boat that looks right at home alongside $1 million rigs, without requiring a yacht crew or a second mortgage. The ride is rock solid thanks to Bertram's deep V hull and overbuilt structure. It feels stable, heavy, and composed when the seas get rowdy, perfect for first-time buyers who want reassurance more than adrenaline. The layout's straightforward. Big casting deck, easy access around the console, and just enough luxury touches to make long days enjoyable. New models start around $265,000 to $280,000 US, while used ones often hover around $200,000 depending on hours and condition. It's not a starter boat in the usual sense, but rather a boat you can grow into. You're paying for heritage, quality, and resale confidence, all wrapped in fiberglass that's tougher than your ego after docking lessons. If boats had personality types, the Tiara 3100 Open would be that smooth, confident professional who makes everything look easy. It's not new, it's timeless. This 31-footer is one of the most popular models Tiara ever built, and for first-time buyers with classic taste, it's a home run. The 3100 Open combines comfort and toughness perfectly. You get a cabin with overnight space, a proper galley, and a deck layout that's simple, open, and fish-ready. Tiara's hull design gives it a smooth, predictable ride offshore, while the inboard engines keep the weight low and balanced, ideal for those still learning the ropes. You can find used examples from the early 2000s for around $80,000 to $130,000 US, depending on condition and upgrades. For that money, you're getting a real inboard Sportfisher that still looks sharp today. Sure, it's older and needs a good survey before buying, but it's also one of those rare boats that proves classic doesn't mean outdated. The Everglades 273cc is for first-time buyers who aren't interested in playing small ball. This thing is serious, offshore capable, beautifully built, and designed to make you feel like a pro on day one. At 27 feet, it's compact enough to handle confidently but tough enough to run deep. The secret weapon is Everglades' ram cap construction, which molds the hull and foam core together under pressure, making it one of the most solid rides in the industry. Powered by twin Yamaha 200s and 50s, or 300s, it flies through chop while staying surprisingly quiet and dry. The layout balances fishing function with family comfort, including plush forward seating and a clean helm design. New models list around $315,000 to $330,000 US, while used examples typically sit between $180,000 to $220,000. It's a premium first boat, no doubt, but also one that'll outlast trends and still turn heads at the marina 10 years from now. For anyone serious about sport fishing and safety, this is the no-compromise option. If you're the kind of first-time buyer who believes go big or go home, the Pursuit OS 325 Offshore is your dream launch pad. This is the point where fishing boat meets mini yacht, complete with air conditioning, a galley, and a cabin that feels like a floating studio apartment. At 34 feet overall, it's large but still manageable, and Pursuit's build quality means everything feels solid, quiet, and premium. Under the deck, twin Yamaha 300s provide smooth, steady power, capable of cruising comfortably in the mid-30s and pushing up to 45 miles per hour when conditions allow. The hull design is reassuring, carving through chop like it's on rails. For new owners, the OS 325 takes away much of the anxiety of bigger boat handling, with excellent visibility, joystick controls, and thoughtful ergonomics that make docking less of a spectator sport. Pricing starts around $470,000 to $490,000 USD new, though you can find used examples around $350,000 to $400,000 in excellent condition. It's definitely an investment, but one that brings a lifetime of confidence and capability. You're not just buying a first boat, you're buying a machine that'll make every other one after it feel like a downgrade. And finally, for the first-time buyer who wants to start fishing without selling a kidney, the Bayliner Element E21 Sport. It might not have twin outboards or a radar dome, but it's the perfect entry ticket to saltwater fun. At 21 feet, it's compact, easy to trailer, and forgiving to drive, the ideal training ground before you jump into something bigger. Powered by a single Mercury 154-stroke, it cruises around 30 miles per hour, sips fuel, and handles calm inshore conditions with ease. There's a live well, plenty of seating, and a layout that works for fishing, cruising, or just relaxing on the bay. It's also one of the most affordable fiberglass boats you can buy new without feeling like you've cut corners. Prices start around $45,000 to $55,000 USD new, with used models often under $35,000. It's not an offshore machine, but it's safe, simple, and surprisingly fun. For anyone dipping a toe into boating, the E21 Sport is proof that you don't need a fortune to start making waves. So now we know every great captain starts somewhere, and maybe your story begins with one of these 17 Sportfishers. They're not just boats. They're your first taste of freedom, adventure, and belonging on the water. So which one would you choose? Drop your pick in the comments, hit like if you felt inspired, and subscribe, because your next launch might just change everything.